Welcome back, everybody. Today we're discussing WandaVision and the extraterrestrial Easter eggs, Skrull foreshadowing, and any other possible reference to space or aliens that I could find. This video will have clues from episodes 1 through 7 chronologically ordered, documenting all of the possible references that something might be up with the final frontier. It's my hope that this video will be a resource for theory crafting, as all of these things compiled together may help spell out the bigger picture. Plus, I think Skrulls have been a role in this story, and it's something that I've kind of put on the back burner for some time. So, starting with episode 1 and the very first line of the show.
My wife and her flying saucers.
My husband and his indestructible head.
Now, the term flying saucers, on the surface it appears to be poking fun at Wanda's ability to throw stuff at him, but it could also be a double entendre hinting at UFOs. His response feels like a joke, but her response brings up something very intimate, the trauma that she felt when losing vision, literally seeing his head ripped open after she had killed him herself moments before. Because her rebuttal is mentioning something so important to her, I wonder if the flying saucer comment is meant to be a casual line now, that after the big reveal will mean something so much more important. Next, we come to episode 2, when the first hexagon of the episode appears, being made from the stars surrounding the moon. And of course, Wanda and Vision fly down from behind the moon. The next hexagon we see is shown as the magic prop here, as if the hexagon was descending from above or shining light down below. Also in episode 2, at the 22-minute mark, we see during the magic show, which I still think is kind of a metaphor for what's happening inside of WandaVision, but the background here, we see this really odd architecture. I wasn't sure how to connect this or even if this should be mentioned here, but it could be showing UFOs, and ultimately it was just something that felt really odd at the time. Consider this more of an honorable mention. Next, in episode 3, when Monica is talking to Wanda about her temp job, she says that her boss is someone named Mr. Haddix and that they were working on marketing a cereal called Gravityos that has little marshmallow moon men. It's unclear if this is more than just a joke about old cereals, or it could be an Easter egg referencing a possible settlement on the moon by something called Inhumans. This is another casual line that they just slide in while we, the audience, are mainly focusing on the stork in this scene. Then we come to episode 4, when Monica is being brought back from the snap. We hear her memories returning to her, referencing when she was a child and talking to Nick Fury and Captain Marvel about building her own spaceship to meet Auntie Carol out in space. This reunion assumingly has not happened yet, and if it did, it was off screen. This may explain some of her frustration with Captain Marvel later on, again, assuming that Carol never said goodbye to her mother before she died. It probably also relates to the technology of the Skrulls. That tech may have saved her mother's life, and of course, it's not used. One thing worth noting is that now that Monica does glow, kind of glow, like Auntie Carol, we may be seeing that reunion sometime in the future. While we're discussing Monica, now may be a good time to insert that she was one of the only humans to interact with Skrulls on this intimate of a level. She was a child playing with the daughter of Talos, the Skrull leader, fundamental to the survival of their people because she convinced her mother to pilot the mission with Carol. To say that they left on good terms is putting it lightly. Skrulls probably exist in this story for that reason alone. Monica's positive relationship with that race is a cornerstone to her character. Next, we come to SWORD headquarters, where they discuss the astronaut training program. Hayward describes the numbers not being good because half were blipped and the other half lost their nerve. Now, I think he's lying about that reason, because we later learned that they shifted away from manned missions and focused on the creation of sentient weapons, and the email later says that SWORD funds were used in the Cataract program. I don't think people wanted to stop going to space. I think more likely he wanted SWORD to get out of space and funnel funds into, of course, the creation of those sentient weapons. This conversation also reveals that Hayward views space as being filled with unexpected threats just by default, which he is right about, and I'm sure is the general consensus for many humans after the snap. However, she is quick to remind him that space is also filled with allies and shouldn't be viewed as, always the threat, referencing, of course, Captain Marvel and her Skrull friends, which is kind of unclear if he knows what those are. Then we see Hayward ground her to terrestrial missions only, which is cited as being part of her mother's plan. But given that they moved away from manned missions entirely, it kind of feels like, she didn't have a choice here. Still in episode 4, Darcy introduces herself to the van as an astrophysicist, now completing her PhD. When she first arrives at camp, she wonders about the full spectrum of armed forces that make up this Tiger team, saying that they not only have a research lab here on site, but Space Command too, which I guess makes sense. At this point, they have no clue what they're dealing with, but Space Command at this early just kind of feels odd. Next, she discovers the increased CMBR, which is a remnant of the creation of the universe and normally at a pretty even rate across the planet. However, because it's spiking so close to this border, I still wonder if this doesn't point to the creation of a new universe or perhaps a bridge to the younger universe. This point also makes me think of the Infinity Stones, which were formed at the same time. This could still point to the creation of new stones or possibly jumping to a reality where the stones are within reach once again. Then we have a direct reference to Skrulls when Jimmy Woo writes their name on the board. It's interesting because literally anybody, any single character could be a Skrull right now, matching, of course, down to the DNA. Now, this just raised a red flag to me because 2 hours ago I finished watching Captain Marvel. The fact that these Skrulls are written on this board felt like a perfectly normal thing to ask. However, how the heck does he or anybody else except for Monica know who Skrulls are? As far as I know, this is still secret knowledge and they are still in hiding. How would the FBI know this? It could be pointing to the missing person being a Skrull or a half Skrull, or possibly that Monica wrote it on there, but, am I missing something here? This is supposed to be a well-kept secret. I don't know why it's being addressed so publicly. It feels like we're either missing a part of the story or they were outed in some kind of way, because we do know that they are in Spider-Man Far From Home. It's possible that some Skrull-related event is, still due on screen. The next space-related thing happens in episode 5, with Monica knowing an aerospace engineer that would be up for building a fallout shelter on wheels. I don't believe that Goodner is that person, but it may very well be. Then Monica gets upset about the mention of Captain Marvel again and another reference to the Infinity Stones. Then we come to my favorite little clue here in episode 6 when we see Vision reading the paper, and on the back we see a man stuck in a TV with a light hanging from above. To me, this light kind of looks like a flying saucer, which would reference, of course, back to the first line of the show. And the cherry on top is that the caption at the bottom reads, "Otherworldly deals." Then another quick one in the posters of Wanda's memory here, showing the space race, nuclear power, and rockets blasting off. Another mention of Monica and Captain Marvel's history, which again still remains unclear why Hayward would know this information or why they had some kind of tension there, but I think that's something that we're due to see as well. Next, when we learn Hayward has been secretly tracking Vision using a satellite to map the vibranium decay of his body, which is massive. I truly hope they reveal how this technology was built and if Wakanda knows about this. Then we come to episode 7, where Hayward and this person who has been by his side for a few episodes now are looking at the border. I've included this clip because it feels super weird to me and it might hint to Skrulls using this person's identity. This moving of her head is not natural. This could be purely a cosmetic or production issue, as in they merge these two clips together to make it look like she's naturally looking away again, but it feels like so much work when they could have just, clipped this or edited this to make her, just show a different camera angle, just show like the wall a little bit longer. I don't know why this issue just feels so weird to me, but it feels out of place, and it could be hinting that, of course, that she is a Skrull. Next, we see the boys playing the space game, which is on screen for maybe 3 frames until it's turned off, which is super quick. And the idea of the gaming consoles turning into Uno cards could also be a callback to the Skrull child playing Uno with Monica and Captain Marvel. Next, we see the space rover, which does not look at all like the theoretical bunker on wheels that they talked about yesterday, but she also wears a spacesuit for some reason, so yeah, more space. Then we have the commercial about the Nexus medication. This is likely referring to Wanda being a Nexus being, or the Nexus of all realities being the thing that they're inside of. In short, a Nexus being is a ultra powerful person that is tied to the fabric of a reality or critical to its integrity, someone who appears as the same across all realities. The Nexus of all realities is a singular point in space that can be used to traverse the multiverse, able to access any and all realities that exist, which may be infinite. I think for the MCU, they're probably going to combine these 2 points. Then when we see Monica crossing the border, likely becoming a Nexus being herself, with the convergence of all the possible Monicas, another callback to Monica's past with Captain Marvel talking to her about being the toughest kid. I'm including this part as well because it kind of seems like she can see energy waves or, something that feels very spacey. The last and final relation to space is this book. This is likely something called the Darkhold, and it is a primordial dark magic whose spells have existed for billions of years in many different forms across multiple dimensions and realities. It is the ultimate dark power, and the fact that it's here with Agatha at this point in time and space, surely we're dealing with something that is not from this world. Now, wrapping this video up, I think we're likely going to see Mephisto enter the story, or another mythical dark force able to wield such a book. I think that might even be independent from all of the other links to space, Captain Marvel, and the Skrulls. I made this video so that you could see all the mentions or hints at space or conflict in relation to space, and hopefully I haven't missed anything in these first 7 episodes. One last mention about space, however, before we end this video, is the space between your mouse and that subscribe button. If you enjoy this content, please be sure to comment, like, and subscribe to help this channel grow. If you're interested, also consider joining Patreon like my top donor, Michael Linck. See the description below for more info. Much love, everybody, and I cannot wait to talk to you all again soon.